Good morning, girls. In the last class, we learned about the Caliphate and the Umayyad dynasty. The Caliphates, they were successors of Prophet Muhammad, and the Umayyads, they succeeded the Caliphates and remained in power until 750 CE. Now, today we'll be learning about the Abbasid dynasty. The Abbasid dynasty. In 750 CE, the Abbasids overthrew the Umayyads and established their rule. So the Umayyads, they ruled until 750 CE, and in 750 CE, they were overthrown by the Abbasids. The Abbasids overthrew. Overthrew means to remove someone forcefully from power. So the Umayyads, they were overthrown by the Abbasids and they began to rule. They shifted their capital from Damascus to Baghdad. So these Umayyads, they had established Damascus as their capital. Their capital was Damascus, and when the Abbasids came to rule, when the Abbasids came to power, they shifted the capital from Damascus to Baghdad. Harun al-Rashid, whose court was famous throughout the world, was a caliph at Baghdad. Now there was a caliph whose name was Harun al-Rashid. Now he was a famous person. He was a world famous person who was interested in every field, in cultural, religious, scientific, in every field he had great interest. So he was a very world famous caliph, and he was located at Baghdad. The Abbasids were considered holy. They claimed to belong to the same tribe to which Prophet Muhammad belonged. Now these Abbasids, they considered themselves holy. Holy means sacred or very religious. They considered themselves as sacred or religious people, and they claimed that, they proclaimed that they belonged to the same tribe to which Prophet Muhammad belonged. Now, Prophet Muhammad, he belonged to the Quraysh tribe. So these Abbasids, they claimed that they belonged to this Quraysh tribe to which Prophet Muhammad belonged. The Abbasid tribe was one of the most powerful and flourishing one. It included all the important centers of civilization in the area, that is parts of North Africa, Egypt, Spain, Iran and Iraq. Now this Abbasid dynasty, Abbasid empire, it was a very powerful one, a powerful and a flourishing one. Flourishing means a very successful. So it was a very powerful as well as very successful empire, and it was all the centers of civilization. There were many civilizations happening in different parts of the world. Now all the main centers of these civilizations was under the Abbasid dynasty. Now you can see centers of civilization like the parts of North Africa, Egypt, Spain, Iran and Iraq. These are the main centers of civilization, and all these centers, they were under the Abbasid dynasty. Facing strong opposition from non-Arab converts to Islam, Abbasids were compelled to transfer all matters of religious importance to experts of Islam. These learned men came to be collectively called ulemas. Now there were many non-Arabs who were converted to Islam. Even though they were converted to Islam, these non-Arabs, they were considered as second-class citizens. They were not given any privileges. They were considered as a second-class citizen. So because of this system where they were given no privileges, they began to revolt. They began to oppose. Oppose means to fight against. So they began to fight against this system, and when this opposition became very strong, the Abbasids, they were forced to hand over all the religious matters, all the Islamic matters, to a group of people who were known as the ulemas. Now these ulemas, they are Muslim scholars who had great knowledge about all the Islamic matters, about their law, about their theology, etc. So the Abbasids, they handed over, they appointed the ulemas to handle all the religious matters because of the opposition from the non-Arabs. It was during the rule of the Abbasid caliphs that the Arabs made great progress in the field of art, architecture, science, and mathematics. So, under the Abbasid dynasty, the Arabs, they began to prosper. They flourished in every field. They made great developments, great progress in the field of art, architecture, science, and mathematics. They absorbed whatever was best in other cultures and civilizations and used them to further develop their knowledge. So there were many cultures, many civilizations in different parts of the world. So these Abbasids, they took whatever was good and whatever was best in those civilization and cultures, they took all those and they applied it to develop, to improve their own knowledge. They absorbed every good, every thing that was best in the other cultures and civilizations, and they applied it to improve their own knowledge. Now we'll see how they did this. They learnt the decimal system and zero from India, trigonometry and geometry from the Greeks, and astronomy from the Persians. Now we all know that zero and decimal system, they originated in India. So the Abbasids, they learnt about these systems, about both the decimal system and zero from India, and trigonometry and geometry from the Greeks. Now trigonometry and geometry, they are two different branches of mathematics. Trigonometry, it is a study about, it is a branch which studies about the relationship between different lengths and angles of a triangle, and geometry, it studies about the relationship of angles, lines, points, etc. So these are the two different branches of mathematics, and the Abbasids, they learnt about the trigonometry and geometry from the Greeks and astronomy from the Persians. Astronomy is the study of celestial bodies like stars, planets, etc. So they learnt about the astronomy from the Persians. From the Chinese, they learnt the use of mariner's compass, manufacture of glass, paper, gunpowder, the wheelbarrow, and printing. So from the Chinese, they learnt the use of mariner's compass. Now this mariner's compass, it's a device which is used to find the direction. We can find the direction with this mariner's compass. So they learnt about the use of the mariner's compass from Chinese, and also about the manufacture. Manufacture means making. About the making of glass, paper, gunpowder, the wheelbarrow. Now this wheelbarrow, it is a small vehicle. It's a small cart which has, you might have seen it. It has two wheels. It has either one wheel or two wheels, and it has two handles. It is used to carry small load by gardeners or any construction workers. It is used to carry small loads. So they studied about the making of the wheelbarrow and also about the printing from the Chinese. Al-Razi and Ibn Sina were great scientists and physicians. The Arabs discovered new chemical compounds and made use of astrolabe for navigation. So there were some great scientists and physicians like Al-Razi and Ibn Sina. And these Arabs, they also discovered new chemical compounds. They made their inventions, they made their discoveries in the field of chemistry as well. And they made use of the astrolabe for navigation. Now this astrolabe, it is a device which is used to make astronomical measurements. So they used this astrolabe for navigation to find the direction of any vehicle or any craft. In the field of literature, the Persians made remarkable progress. The Caliph Al-Mamun set up a house of wisdom at Baghdad for translating into Arabic the works from the Greek, Chinese, Indian, Egyptian, and Persian civilizations. Thus, Baghdad became a storehouse of knowledge and cultural heritage. Now, there were many civilizations like the Greek, Chinese, Indian, Egyptian, and Persian civilizations. So each of these civilizations, they had their own literary works, they had their own writings, they had their own works of literature. So the Caliph Al-Mamun, he wanted to translate all these works, all these literatures, all these literary works into Arabic. So to translate all these into Arabic, he built a house of wisdom in Baghdad. So it was in this house of wisdom, which is located at Baghdad, that all the translating works took place. Some of the famous Persian writers like Omar Khayyam and Ferdowsi produced great works of literature. Now there were some Persian writers, some famous Persian writers like Omar Khayyam and Ferdowsi, and they produced great works of literature. Omar Khayyam wrote the Rubaiyat and Ferdowsi wrote Shah Nama. Besides these, the world-renowned book Arabian Nights provides information on the life and culture of the Arabs. It is a book of 1001 night stories which was compiled under the patronage of Caliph Harun al-Rashid. So this Arabian Nights, it's a collection of 1001 fictional stories, and these stories they were narrated by Shahrazad to her husband, who was a king. Now this king, he had planned to kill her on their wedding night, on the night after their wedding, and to prevent the murder, Shahrazad, she started to narrate stories every night. So she continued this narration of stories for about 1001 nights. So that's how these 1001 stories were collected, and they were compiled to form the Arabian Nights. Now this Arabian Nights, it tells us about the life and the culture of the Arabs, and it was compiled under the patronage of Caliph Harun al-Rashid. Now, patronage means under the support. So we had already learnt that Harun al-Rashid, he was a caliph, and he had great interest in all the cultural and religious matters. So it was under his support that these 1001 stories were compiled, were put together, and were made into the book Arabian Nights. It contains famous stories like the Sindbad, the Sailor, Ali Baba and 40 Thieves, and Aladdin's Magic Lamp. Now all these stories, you're all familiar with all these stories. The Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, Aladdin's Magic Lamp, Sindbad the Sailor, these are all very familiar stories. And these are all compiled in the Arabian Nights. The art of calligraphy and architecture reached high levels of excellence under the Arabs. Now calligraphy, it is a form of writing, a creative form of writing, and architecture. Both calligraphy, the art of calligraphy and architecture, they prospered, they were successful, they became more successful under the rule of these Arabs. The Abbasids ruled for more than 500 years, and after that the Turks from Central Asia captured Baghdad and established their rule. So these Abbasids, they ruled for 500 years, more than 500 years, and after that the Turks, the Ottoman Turks who came from Central Asia, they took hold of Baghdad and they established their rule. In 1453 CE, they conquered Constantinople and renamed it Istanbul. So in 1453, the Turks, the Ottoman Turks, they captured Constantinople and they renamed Constantinople as Istanbul. From then onwards, Istanbul became the capital of their empire, the Ottoman Empire. So they captured Constantinople, they renamed it Istanbul, and they made it their capital. They made it the capital of their empire, the Ottoman Empire. So today we learnt about the Abbasids dynasty. In this lesson, so this lesson is over, and in this lesson we learnt about the socio-political condition of Islam, of Arabia before the birth of Prophet Muhammad. Before Islam began to rise, then after the birth of Prophet Muhammad, the changes that began to happen, the revelation that Prophet Muhammad received, and the basic principles of Islam according to the Quran, his migration of Prophet Muhammad to Medina, about the caliphates, and about the two dynasty, about the Umayyad dynasty and the Abbasid dynasty. So I want you all to go through the textbook, through these pages, and the notes were already given to you learn those answers and the words to know in your textbooks. So that's all for today, girls. Thank you.